Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true. Cause I thought that's how I wanted it. And it's easier than faking it. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm wrong. Welcome back. This is Jeremy, and on this latest episode, I welcome Chris Keene. Chris Keene is from Number One Gun, Surrogate, as well as currently in the band Emery, Bocce, and the touring guitarist for the band Saves the Day. Chris and I talk about all the records and tours he's done in the past. It's just a cool conversation and to hear his perspective on music in general and how cathartic it is for him. Just a really, really cool opportunity to talk to an amazing artist. So I really hope you enjoy this latest episode with Chris Keene. Chris, what's up, dude? How are you, man?
Jeremy, I'm well, man. How are you?
Good, man. Just enjoying the beautiful day in Florida. How's the day for you so far?
Yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's been unseasonably cold in the part of California I live in, but the last couple of days have been just gorgeous. I'm taking advantage of all I can. Yeah.
My kids live in Los Angeles area, and so I definitely enjoy going out there because it's gorgeous. But yeah, I'm a Florida boy at heart, but I definitely get why people love the West Coast.
Yeah, man. But I'm curious. I've always kind of thought that Southern California and Florida share a little bit of like social DNA. Do you feel that at all, or is it so stark that
it might be down south? I live in Jacksonville, so Jacksonville's it's like the redneck of Florida, if you will. I mean, and I say that with utmost respect because I absolutely love it here. It's amazing. It's incredible. But it definitely is like the redheaded stepchild of the cities in Florida. So it definitely doesn't have that charm or it does have charm. I take that back. It doesn't have the LA-ness like Miami or even like
the money and the...
Yeah. I mean, there's money here, but it's not Miami money, So.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, my wife and I enjoy it here. We love it. It's a little big town. We have a football team, that whole thing. So it's cool. It's a cheap beach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've always kind of noticed, like, just growing up outside of both of those environments, I'm not close to the beach where I live. And I think that there's something about like the like how warm it is and like I don't know, there's not having the threat of weather really to ruin, like, I don't know.
No, it makes sense.
It's a weird theory I've been working on.
I mean, down here it's great, rain a ton in the summer, but that's what makes it so green. But
yeah, totally.
It's only rains for like an hour or whatever. And I get it. Makes complete sense. It's just one of the, I love seeing the sun. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I think it attracts people, sun chasers, right?
Yeah,
both
absolutely.
Places.
Sweet, man. Well, I wanted to, what have you been up to lately? Tell me what you got going on and see what, we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, I am still working with the Emery boys. I'm an official member now.
Oh, wow.
As of this year, which is
That's
very
amazing.
exciting. Yeah. We've got a new record that we're working on, and we shot a special kind of in your neck of the woods, the Inshallah Seas live performance in Tampa.
Oh, when was that?
That was in November.
Man, if I'd have known it came down. I didn't realize that.
Oh shoot! Yeah, we just it was sort of a under the radar thing. We had a video screen stage that we got access to, so we took full advantage. And
very cool.
Yeah, so we're kind of mixing that right now, getting that into fighting shape, and so yeah, that's been keeping me busy. And then I have a project that I started with some friends to do some commercially facing music called Bocce, and just wrap up our new record. We just put some finishing touches on it last weekend, actually, so it's off to be mastered soon. Hopefully get some TV movie placements with that.
That's awesome.
Just chasing that passive income, man.
That's really cool, man. I love hearing that. That's really cool that you are getting yourself busy enough that you've got, not only Emery, but, other things going on in your life. And it's cool that you can stay busy doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I feel like in this environment, especially at the level that I'm at, if you're not kind of a hustler, you're going to, work part-time at McDonald's between tours. Yeah. So it's my way to, kind of keep in the game.
No, I get
however
that, man.
I can. Yeah.
That's super rad. So I kind of want to go back to when you and I first met. We were talking earlier. Yeah. I know it was in Jacksonville. It was on Emery's tour bus at Murray Hill Theater. I remember specifically when I met you, I knew your name because I was a big Surrogate fan, and I just was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like it was really cool to meet you just in general, but I just thought it was cool.
Likewise.
In the moment, and then I was like, well, and then when I reached out to you, I was like, I don't know if you ever remember me, but I was like, it was like one of those things I I kind of keep tabs on, people that I'm like, wow, this is cool. I love what everything you've ever done, which is cool. And thanks, so I kind of remember those times, and that was a cool moment.
Yeah, it stuck in my mind. We just kind of had a pretty easy time conversation wise, and that's always it's always a good sign. So I was happy you reached out, man.
Absolutely, man. Sweet. Well, Chris, why don't you tell me kind of your growing up, how it was for you, but what put you on this path to music and kind of your influences, and let's go from there.
Totally. So I was raised in a very religious, Christian home, was homeschooled, didn't have a ton of social skills for the first part of my life. But my dad's a musician, and he always kind of wanted music to be part of my education. So started on piano when I was 5, and then, saved up from a paper route to buy my first bass when I was 13, and started playing in my youth group worship team, and then started playing punk rock with my friends. And just kind of went from there. And when I was born and raised in Chico, and right after high school, my friend Chris Armstrong, who I played punk rock with. I
know Chris. Yeah, Chris is great.
Yeah. He moved down to San Luis Obispo, met Nate Henry and Dan Koch, and started Sherwood. It was actually called A Long Story Short back then, and it was just a 3-piece. Dan played drums, and Chris played guitar, and Nate played bass and sang. And then they wanted to add a keyboard player, so they convinced me to move down, which was about 6 hours outside of Chico, down to San Luis Obispo. And I didn't have shit going on. I was failing out of my junior college. Was looking for something a little bit more stimulating to do, and they were planning on, making a real go of it, trying to do a real record and tour and stuff. So I moved down there, wrote some songs with them, and tracked their first EP with them. And then right before they started touring, I got a call from the Hometown Heroes back in Chico that I grew up really admiring. They were a band called Number One Gun, and they had just lost a guitar player, and knew that I could sing harmonies and was looking to tour. So they hit me up, and so I quit Sherwood and moved back home.
Well, I mean, I guess that wasn't a bad move on both parts. They wound up being, doing their own thing.
Totally. I moved at the time because it was turnkey, Number One Gun had their record out on Floodgate at that point. And was touring already, and Sherwood still had a bit of a bit of a time to establish themselves. So, but it did turn out like it was sort of six on one hand, half a dozen on the other.
Yeah.
They ended up kind of being in a pretty equal sized band. So,
yeah, absolutely. What at that time when you were growing up, what's some of the records that you kind of influenced who you became, I guess I should say.
Totally. I mean, I was raised on like Newsboys and Amy Grant. All that shit. Which, is fine. It wasn't the most musically stimulating music ever, but it was something to connect to. And then once I kind of hit high school and got my own friends that were a little bit outside of like that real churchy scene, I kind of started listening to more Tooth and Nail music, like really loved Slick Shoes and Goaty Hook and MXPX, of course, all those like, kind of skate punk bands. And then I kind of realized that each one of those bands had like a Fat Records analog, like so I got into Lagwagon and NoFX and
then, the whole Southern California
totally, just that kind of snot-nosed punk shit that I really I still love. And then my brother-in-law introduced me to Winners Never Quit by Pedro the Lion.
Great.
And oh my God, the best. And around that same time, he gave me the Bends from Radiohead too. And
perfect record.
That kind of opened up. Yeah. And that was right before, so that was like 97. That was right before OK Computer came out. So it was a
perfect record as well.
Oh my gosh. When that came out, it was a game changer.
It really was.
It was, even still, like some of the best records ever recorded, I think, came out in like 97, 98.
Oh yeah, man. Absolutely.
Then like Shape of Punk to Come came out right around then.
Yep.
And it was like, it just opened up like, oh, not all cool music has to have that, I don't have to skateboard and like break my shins just to fit in.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
But go ahead. No, I cut you off. I apologize.
And so anyways, right around that time, I saw Pedro the Lion and Starflyer 59 and this band called Seldom. They toured through my hometown and played this little coffee shop. And it was the first show I remember being like, this is like transcendent to me. Yeah. It was, and they were just incredible, man.
What a great tour. I mean, I've seen Starflyer I don't know how many times, and Pedro quite a few times as well. And it's like, they never get old. They're timeless. None
of them, not a single Starflyer or Pedro song is like a bad song ever. Like they don't write bad songs. It's insane.
Yeah. That's rad, man. So let's touch on Number One Gun for a little bit. I was never a massive fan. I knew who they were. I had heard, kind of the songs, and I knew they were kind of just, a solid, pop rock or pop punk or whatever you want to call it band. Totally. And I always appreciated it. I just, I was more into the hardcore heavy stuff at the time, but kind of maybe tell me kind of how that was for you joining that band and how things were with the band.
Yeah, totally. So when I was in high school, my punk rock band in high school, we ended up playing a bunch of shows actually with Number One Gun, because we were both sort of like the Christian youth group rock scene. And Jeff, the singer of Number One Gun, kind of took us under his wing and recorded our first album for us and put us on a bunch of cool shows with them. And I think just kind of getting to know him, he recognized that like I'm not like a lead singer guy necessarily at heart, but I'm pretty good at background vocals and could kind of pick up whatever I needed to on guitar or bass or whatever. So when they were, like I said, they lost a guitar player. I was 19 at the time, and they were looking to go on tour. I think they had just booked a tour opening for Supertones, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Back, and it was right around Christmas. Gosh, this must have been 2003, I think. Yeah, 2003. Christmas 2000, end of 2003. And they had a tour booked for, I want to say February. So so they hit me up and gave me a few days to kind of think about it, and I decided to switch from Sherwood back to Number One Gun, or back to Chico anyways. Yeah, they had a record come out on Floodgate Records, which is Tim.
Love Tim.
Tim's label. Yeah, Tim is a prince. Always love that guy.
He is a prince.
And but it was a one-off, and the imprint that first record was on kind of folded after we put our well, actually there was a couple other records they put out, but was just sort of not a long-standing record label. So we were shopping around. We were talking to the Matts at Mono versus Stereo, and a few different like Christian labels, but I think we all kind of just felt the gravitational pull towards Tooth and Nail, just because like they were putting out such phenomenal records at that point. Like Under Oath had just come out, Amberlin, and Further Seems Forever was like all of our favorite band. Yeah. So it just felt like Tooth and Nail was the obvious choice, and I think it was the correct one. That was kind of our scene. That's where we fit. So
absolutely. What was the touring like with that once you got on Tooth and Nail? Do you feel like your fan base increased, obviously, or was it, Oh,
totally. It's compared to the platform that we had with Floodgate, which was great, it's just scaled down a little bit compared to Tooth and Nail. So when we put out that first Tooth and Nail record, Promises for the Imperfect, it got amplified way more than our first record did. So yeah, we got offered a lot more tours. It was kind of a level up experience, Yeah. Just a little bit more credibility in the scene.
Who did you record that record with on Tooth and Nail?
That was a Sprinkle.
Oh,
up at the compound.
I love him.
Yeah, he's fantastic, man.
Oh my gosh.
A very rare talent, man.
Oh man, I loved Poor Old Lou, so it was like anything he's ever since I've discovered him, I've been a massive fan.
Totally.
He's got a brilliant mind.
He does, man, and he really knows how to like bring the best out of musicians. It's kind of a Rick Rubin-ish kind of quality, like not. It's not that it's terribly technical. He just reads people well or something. Yeah. I can't put my finger on it, but he's an inspiration to me.
He's got the touch.
He does. He's got that Midas touch, man.
He's got the touch for sure. So that record comes out. Touring's good. Yeah. Is that kind of, how long were you in the band at that point? Like, when did you start to kind of maybe phase yourself out? You've left after that record, correct?
Well, yeah. So we actually broke up at the end of that tour cycle. We were all just worn out, and we were having some personnel problems. Sure. And it kind of came to a head. We were on tour with Project 86, and it was just kind of a weird fit for us. Their fans didn't really care for us, and they were the headliners, so our fans were a little standoffish. So anyways, it was just a little bit of a demoralizing kind of tour, and we had this one festival that we were going to fly out from Pennsylvania to California for, that was going to kind of pay for this like money losing tour we were on. So it was like our safety net was this one fly date, and then one of the guys in the band just kind of had a breakdown and was like, I can't fly, I've got crazy anxiety. And we're like, that sucks, dude, because we can't keep doing this if we we literally can't keep going on this tour if we don't get this paycheck. And and it just kind of broke all of us at a certain point in Philadelphia. It came to a head, and two of us quit that night, and then it just kind of fell apart. Yeah.
Was that hard, or was that a hard situation, or a hard conversation?
It was it was definitely a hard conversation. We all kind of like hung out at the hotel and kind of rotated through the rooms, sort of like, what the fuck is happening right now? But it was also like there was some dysfunction in the band that was starting to kind of boil into some pleasant. It was hard, but it was necessary. I think, at least for me, it was just kind of felt like the end of the right time to call it the
makes
end,
sense.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
so no hard feelings or anything.
Yeah. That's tough when you're like friends with someone and you're in business with someone and it starts to kind of rear its ugly head from time to time, and personalities and, you know, it all, you know.
It is. I mean, it's a cliche and people say it all the time, but it's like being in a band like that is kind of like having 4 big hairy girlfriends, you know? Like it's you have to kind of negotiate those relationships in a very like emotionally intelligent way, and you know, a bunch of 19-year-old kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes the
age is everything. I mean, it really.
Yeah.
You know. That makes,
we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We got the music side down, but the interpersonal stuff, we were just immature little shits.
No, I get it. I totally understand that. So band breaks up. Is that when you start to say, I want to do my own project, or you know, and I guess how did Tooth and Nail just kind of say, hey, I want to put this out, or how did that whole thing materialize?
Yeah, so Number One Gun signed a 1 guaranteed album with 2 options, meaning if Tooth and Nail had the first rights of refusals for 3 albums, whether or not we broke up. So basically, when we called it quits, I started writing a bunch of just like kind of folky, you know, sad bastard songs, and Jordan, the drummer in Number One Gun, was interested in playing them with me. So he demoed out with me, and our A&R guy, John Dunn at Tooth and Nail, wanted to hear them. I sent him a few demos, and he really liked them and decided to offer us the second option on our Number One Gun contract. So basically, we just negotiated. We weren't really interested in touring. We were pretty worn out and like kind of had a little PTSD from that last run. So we were like, hey, we don't want to put like a ton into this. We both Tooth and Nail and me and Jordan agreed, like, this is just going to be kind of a side project, like low key thing, because we don't want to spend 9 months on the road supporting it. So they gave us a little tiny budget. And they told me that I could spend that on a producer, which they had Jason Martin from Starflyer lined up if I wanted him.
Wow.
Or I could buy my own gear, do it myself, and they'd have someone mix it. So I opted for the second option, and Jason actually ended up mixing that first record. So. Oh,
nice! I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm such a big fan, so it was such a dream to have his input. Yeah. Then we did 1 tour. We promised Tooth and Nail we'd do 1 tour, and Emery took us out for.
Yeah, I actually saw that tour.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was in Lawrence, Kansas at the Granada, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I didn't know the Emery guys at that point, but I went. I from a buddy of mine, and he booked it, so he put me on the list, and I was in the area, so I was like, well, let's go. Oh, and it was awesome. It was really cool. Yeah, it was, and I saw Chris playing with you that night.
Yes, yeah.
So that's why I was, and I caught up with him, and but yeah, that was awesome. That's kind of how I had heard of you guys, and I primarily wanted to see you guys. So that's kind of why I wound up going.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm flattered, man.
Yeah, man.
It was that was such a fun tour. It was so novel to do like these rooms and like play these shows in a completely different environment than Number One Gun, you know, like got to kind of redefine what we wanted it to be. So it was really great. And we became such good friends. Ruth was on that tour too. And
yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. And we hit it we all hit it off with everybody on that run. It was really fun.
That's rad. Yeah. I just vividly remember that show it wasn't at all acoustic or something. Yeah. We played a couple songs electric, but for the most part, I was playing acoustic guitar. And everybody else was fully unplugged. So very cool. Well, I want to kind of go into that first record that you talked about. I really love that record. I really attached to that one when it came out. Wow. I just thought the songwriting was phenomenal, and I'm a big Jason Martin fan, but I'm glad you did record it because I love how raw it is. I love how it sounds. I really do.
Thanks,
so
man.
tell me about that record. What was influencing you at that time? What records maybe were you listening to then? Because I can kind of hear some, but
Totally, yeah. I mean, at that point, I had kind of gotten a little burnt out on the emo, like real wall of sound, big records. So and was really attached to those like early Pedro records where you could kind of hear that they were homemade and like just crafted with love and maybe not great gear. So I kind of wanted to go that minimal route and like was listening to a lot of like, I don't know, Sufjan Stevens and Damien Gerardo and like a lot of these amazing like acoustic singer-songwriter types that told stories with their lyrics and wasn't just like love songs or, whatever. So yeah, I was listening to a lot of that, a lot of Radiohead, a lot of, what else was in heavy rotation back in those days? Actually kind of a fair amount of like post-punk stuff. The Mars Volta had just come out, and I was obsessed with that first record. Oh my God. Record. So kind of an eclectic mix, but pretty singer-songwriter heavy stuff. And then Jordan, the drummer, he's a straight up Dave Grohl, John Bonham type, heavy hitter type. So having his touch of a little bit more of this like kind of in your face rock and roll drumming with these like kind of sensitive laid back acoustic guitar jams was just kind of what our sound ended up becoming, and just kind of evolved from there.
I know you said Jonathan Dunn loved it. What did Tooth and Nail think about the record?
I think the first record, I think they were all fairly they had pretty tempered reactions to it. I think it was that nobody at least communicated that they didn't care for it, but it didn't really garner a whole lot of excitement from the staff. And I think that's partially because we were only going to be a part-time band.
Yeah, and you're not touring.
They're not going to make any money on us. So, but our second record, I know that the staff really enjoyed a lot more when we went a little bit more of like a indie rock route and less singer-songwriter type.
I was gonna go next. Is gonna hit that one next. So tell me about that record. What was how long after Love Is for the Rich was that? Like, did you take quite a bit of time or?
Yeah, so it was about 2 years between the two records. So Love Is for the Rich came out in 2007, and Popular Mechanics came out in 2009. And by that point, I had started working in a commercial recording studio, so I had access to way better gear, and I was a little bit more confident with mixing, so I mixed it myself, and then had it mastered professionally by Troy Glessner, who's my favorite. He's great.
Yeah, I've heard his name.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's done a bunch of Tooth and Nail stuff. So yeah, it was just a little bit more, I had a lot more confidence going into that second record, just, been there before. The first record was literally just me and our drummer. That's it. No one else touched the production at all. But the second one, I had other musicians come in, like a violin player, and just a little bit more, I guess the production, I think, is the biggest difference. Yeah. I just knew what I was doing a little bit better.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. You can there's a drastic difference between the two, but it's still totally the same,
Yeah, totally. And all those, the first album were literally the first song I ever wrote by myself that wasn't like part of a, emo band or punk rock band. All of those songs were just like my very first attempt at like writing lyrics and melodies and stuff. So I was very reserved with that first record, and then felt a lot more confident with the second one. Yeah.
And I know you said you weren't touring, but were you playing shows around town, or were you?
Yeah, totally. We played a bunch around Northern California. Became kind of a regional act, but never really left. I mean, we did a couple West Coast runs here and there, but 9 times out of 10, if we were playing, we're going to be in Chico. So
yeah. Did you get in? Did you feel like, like you said, Tooth and Nail probably liked that record better, but did you get any feedback from, like websites or anything like that? Any like?
Yeah, we got some love, absolutely. We had a single called Death Penalty that got on. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, a lot of people actually reached out, and some good blog reviews, and 15 was on a couple of samplers, which is our kind of the one like kind of dancey track on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like I said, like their promotional budget for it was pretty non-existent, so it flew under the radar for the most part.
Yeah.
People who know it generally were like kind of Tooth and Nail super fans, or just kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah.
But,
well,
yeah.
I'm sure you're proud of those records. I mean, they're
absolutely.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Thanks, man.
I definitely feel like you guys were a band that, I feel like should have been more. But I get not wanting to be on the road. I mean, that's like comes with the territory,
Totally. And there have definitely been moments where I'm like, I wonder what could have happened if we gave it a real shot, But
yeah,
at the same time, like I'm proud of those records, and we got to be like a really good local band, and there's nothing wrong with that. So
no, not at all. So after Popular Mechanics, did you guys leave Tooth and Nail? Is that kind of how did you independent?
Yeah. So that was, like I mentioned earlier, that was the end of our 3-album contract, fulfilling the number one gun contract. So
yeah,
it was weird. It was kind of just unspoken. Like I started writing new songs, and I was sent 1 or 2 to John, and he was like, "These are cool," and then no follow up. And so we were just finally like, well, we own all the recording gear that we need. We can do this without having to get a budget.
Yeah,
might as well. And I was still working at that studio at that time for the next for that EP. So yeah, the budget thing was a non-issue, and so we just kind of decided to do it ourselves, and we never really heard from Tooth and Nail again.
Well, I mean,
I mean, they were in that, and at that time too, they were going through some pretty major, like the scene was changing pretty dramatically.
Absolutely.
Everybody was like, I don't know what's like, Napster was just changing the game. So,
yep.
So they weren't super stoked about like spending money on something that wasn't a guaranteed return. Yeah. I get it. And there's absolutely no ill will. Like they have always treated us so well. So
that's awesome.
I have nothing but good things to say.
So is that when you started writing? Was it Diamonds and Pearls was next, right? Or
yeah, that's Diamonds and Pearls.
So kind of tell me about that record. And obviously you were kind of on your own time frame and doing your own thing. What was that whole thing like?
So that was the first time that the guys that play live ended up recording with us. So everybody played their own parts, and we kind of wrote a bunch of that record together. And it was you can kind of tell that it's more of a band focused record rather than just sort of like a guy with an acoustic guitar. There's a lot more not aggressive music, but more upbeat, a little bit just kind of typical indie rock, more electric guitar, less ballads,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our attempt at like trying to be like, this is a band now.
Yeah.
Like everybody contributes, and it went well, but it was slow going, like
sure.
Nobody in that band really knew what the roles were to be filled, because I had been kind of a tyrant about like songwriting, and up until that point, like I had just recorded everything on the record and then just shown everybody what to play. So it's a bit of a learning curve, but I think it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
there's a couple of songs on there that I really love still, and but it was definitely like a lot more effort went into that record than any of the other records, I think, just because it was a new approach to it.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Did you? I know you said the band kind of was more involved in it. Do you usually just come up with the songs and they kind of write around it, or do you all just kind of get in a room and say, "Hey, let's do this"?
Well, with that record, there was 2 or 3 songs that we fleshed out from scratch together as a band in the room. I'm not great at writing that way, so I kind of have to be in my own little hole and
Sure.
Sit down with lyrics and smoke a cigarette and all that stuff. So,
No.
But it was definitely a shift in the way that Surrogate operated at that point, for sure. It was, and now we kind of do a hybrid. Like everybody plays their parts, but I kind of reverted back to like I'm just going to demo out everything and we can kind of fine tune it together. Sure. So it's kind of somewhere in between now, but that was kind of the pendulum hitting the furthest point for that record.
I know obviously you guys were independent, but was there any labels hitting you guys up at that time, or were you just kind of like, let's just do it?
There was, at that point, Matt Hoops from Mono versus Stereo hit me up. Really liked, there was this song on that record called Can't Go Home that had been circulating. I think I put it up on YouTube as just sort of a goof or whatever. And he really liked it. And we'd kind of began to negotiate, but then the same issue kind of came up, like, oh, you guys aren't willing to tour. That's kind of a deal breaker for us. And at that point, like, we were all married and like half of us had houses and like teacher jobs and shit like that.
And bills.
And bills, yeah. And so really, I mean, even I at that point couldn't really tour. So it was just kind of, it stalled out. So just decided to keep going. And at that point with a band's third record, it's not a clean slate, like there's a reason, there's going to be questions of like, why didn't you sell any records on your first 2 releases, so you kind of have a stink on you at that point, and that's fine. It was still, it cleared the way for us to really lean into owning everything, just like we get to do exactly what we want when we want. And that's fun. I like that.
Was that record just on digital, or did you do physical copies? Or
that record, actually I have about 10 feet away from me. I have boxes and boxes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you want one, I'll send you.
Yes, I would love that actually.
You got it.
That's awesome. So how long after Diamonds and Pearls did you start? I mean, were you just kind of living life, doing your thing, and then you started doing post-heroic?
Yeah, so Post-Heroic was a little bit of a fraught situation because Jordan moved to a different city, so he quit the band for that album, and we didn't really know. We were trying out drummers around town, and nothing was really clicking. So we ended up really piecemealing that album together. Like all 4 of the remaining members played drums on at least one track on that album, and I had quit working at that recording studio and set up my own shop and had some pretty questionable gear at that point. So I was getting used to like a new room and a new system and all this stuff. So one's some of my favorite songs that I've written are on that album, but the production on that album just kind of makes me cringe still. And just the amount of effort that went into that album to sort of cover up the fact that Jordan wasn't with us anymore. Mm-hmm. Really kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. So that song that album, I have some really complicated feelings about. But it is what it is. It's, it's a document of where we were at the time. So
yeah. And what year was that?
Gosh, so that was, I want to say 2013, maybe 2014. It was a little bit longer between those albums than the previous 2, but or 3.
Did you feel like, like, again, you're not touring, you're writing these records. Did you feel like you wanted to, I don't know, maybe just, I guess, what was your goal? Were you just like, I just want to write these records for me? Were you like, I want to write these, like, kind of what was your headspace like?
Yeah, it was very, it's kind of a myopic approach to it. Like I was well aware of like the limitations, and I didn't want to put together a band that could tour, but with different personnel than the people who were like truly in the band. There's like, I know a lot of bands do that, and that just sounded like, I don't know, a road I didn't want to go down. So yeah, I mean, it was a little frustrating knowing like, that there's a real limit to the exposure that these songs were going to have. And
Yeah.
I'm not a great self-promoter, so getting like an online buzz is sort of unattainable for me, like outside of like a machine, you know? So,
yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little frustrating, like, and I kind of just had to turn that part of my brain off a little bit of when I was writing those songs, just to be like, I want to put out something, you know, like, and this is just the smoothest, easiest route to do that. So, but it was a little deflating just knowing like there's a world in which this could have been heard by a lot more people.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, things happen for a reason, obviously, and, you know, you're in a position now where you're being able to do what you're doing. But I mean, I think that's like the hardest part is like so many artists and bands that have been so these records, some of these records, not yours in particular, but records will never be heard because there's just no. And then there's a billion bands now, so that's like even worse. It's like
there's so much white noise. Yeah, like anybody can pay $5 and put an album on Spotify or whatever. Yep. And that's amazing because the barrier to entry is so low, but it also the signal to noise ratio is insane. Yeah. So it's bittersweet to have access like this because it is so smooth and easy to put out our own music, but it's a noise ocean out there.
Yep. So after that record, is that kind of when you started playing with the Emery guys, or how did that materialize?
That was we just kind of kept in touch after they took Surrogate out. You know, we'd check in when they were in Northern California. I'd come to their shows or whatever, and then they had heard some of the recordings that I did for Surrogate, and they were looking to find somebody to do a recording for Devin's solo project.
Nice.
Yeah, and so Matt hit me up out of the blue one day and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in like basically being Devin's producer and backup band?" So you could like do it in the box, just completely create this album from the song, take the songs that he wrote, and then just do all the production yourself, and then we could just pay you a producer's fee. So I did, and I hired Jordan, the drummer from Surrogate, to drum on that album, and put that record out, and just kind of kept in contact. And then when Devin came back after his hiatus, which is when we did that record, I think he was not touring with Emery or just starting to tour with them again.
Yeah.
And they decided that they didn't want to play with tracks. They didn't want to have Dave on a click anymore because they had the second guitar just piped in through like an iPad.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be able to do a little bit more improvising and dynamic changes and stuff. So they hit me up, and I learned the songs, and they flew me out to rehearse. And the first day that we rehearsed, Matt's mom passed away. So we canceled the tour, and I flew right home. But it was an intense time. It was a pretty kind of a baptism by fire, to be honest. And Matt was so gracious with me, and in the moment he did so well, like composing himself and keeping things together. But it was such a dark time for him. So
I bet it was.
Yeah. So a couple months later, we resumed, and I flew back out, and we did a tour, and I haven't looked back since.
Those guys are great guys.
Oh my God, they're all some of my favorite people in the world, man.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Excellent.
So, and also you're playing with Saves the Day as well, right?
Yeah, kind of randomly.
How did that happen? And tell me kind of how that went.
Yeah, so back in, I think it must have been 2002 or 2003. Chris Conley, the singer for Saves, met a girl in Chico, where I grew up, and got married, moved here, started a family, and he came to a few Surrogate shows and liked my songwriting and reached out, and then we became friends, and we started playing in a 90s cover band together.
Oh wow. What was that called?
We were called Trippin' on a Hole in a Paper Heart.
Is that from what's the band?
Yeah, I think it's Soundgarden.
Okay, yeah. Oh no, Stone Temple Pilots, right?
So yeah, that's right. STP. Yeah. My bad. Yeah. Yeah, it was just goofy for fun. We learned, I don't know, like 3 hours worth of music, and with Trevor Sellers, who played bass in Number One Gun, played bass in that band, and then it was the same kind of thing. Chris was at that time playing guitar and singing in saves, and he just wanted to sing, go back to how he used to do it, and we have a similar vocal range, so I was able to harmonize with him in our cover band pretty well. And he was looking for somebody who'd be able to do some backup vocals too. So he asked me to try out. And so I learned a bunch of songs and started playing with them.
And you started playing with them around that time, or when did you start playing with them?
So that was Emery. I joined Emery in 2016, the beginning of 2016. And my first Saves the Day tour was, I think, in 2018. So
wow.
A year and a half later or so is when I started playing with them.
Man, that's cool. How were those? I guess kind of talk about maybe some of the tours that you've done with those, and like what the shows were like.
Yeah. So it was right at the tail end of them touring in a real traditional way. So I did a handful of like 5-week tours with them. We did one with co-headlining one with Joyce Manor, which was amazing.
Wow.
Super fun. We did a tour with Kevin Devine and Ann Horace, both definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard them. They're amazing musicians. And it's just, I mean, I don't know, Saves the Day is just such a special band. Like,
absolutely,
everybody has a relationship with Stay What You Are, or Through Being Cool, or In Reverie, or something like.
Yeah.
Can't Slow Down. Yeah, exactly. And it means so much to so many people, and having, I don't know, just being connected and being on stage with those guys that have, just the amount of respect
totally
that the scene has for that band is insane. It's really just kind of breathtaking.
I bet it is. What's it like playing some of those bangers? Like,
oh, dude, one of my favorite songs in high school was At Your Funeral, and like we opened or closed every show with that song, and I got to sing the harmonies on the chorus.
Unbelievable. And
the little echo in the verse, and it was just so surreal. I literally remember being like 17 or 18 when that album came out, and like going on a camping trip with my friends and like figuring that out on guitar, and we all just like screamed it at the top of our lungs out in the forest. And so yeah, it was a total blast, total dream come true, and I'm just a fan of his songwriting and his talent. It's insane. He's so good.
What a cool like you said, singing in the forest, and then 20 years later you're playing with them.
Yeah, I mean, we just did Through Being Stay What You Are in its entirety in Chicago, in Denver, and New Jersey as just like kind of special dates.
Yeah.
And I don't know, learning every one of those songs was such a surreal pleasure, It really, really special time for me. So
that's really cool.
I'm forever grateful for those guys.
That's really awesome. And they're not touring much at all, right? They're just doing flyouts and stuff.
Yeah, the only thing that I know about this year are some festivals and some fly dates. I think we're going to try to do an In Reverie, or not reunion, but special show.
Yeah.
Just play that one front to back, which is one of my favorite records. I know it's a polarizing one for some folks, but I think I'm really looking forward to learning some of those weird Beatles style.
Absolutely.
Compositions that he wrote back then
he definitely.
And I love him.
Yeah, he definitely. He put himself in a position where the old fans were like, "What the hell is this?" And then
I know,
and it opened up a whole other world,
Yeah, I mean, people. Yeah, I feel like Dyed in the Wool, like Can't Slow Down, Through Being Cool fans have a kind of a hard time with it, but I just love it. I just think it's one of their most unique, underrated albums, if you ask me. But
good record.
To each their own, right?
Absolutely. So let's talk about Space Mountain. I know this is your collection over the years, but I when you put it out recently, I've I listened to it nonstop for about 2 weeks. Like I love
gosh.
it. It's I really, you probably got 30 cents from me on Spotify.
Damn.
No, but I really did. I like went out of town for work, and I drive around, doing like inspections, and I just popped that record on, and I think it's fantastic. And I know again it's a collection, but I love the way it sounds. I love everything about it. So kind of tell me about that record and then those songs.
Oh yeah. Well, Jeremy, that means a lot, man. Thank you. I know that you have a very accomplished taste, so I'm flattered.
Well, thank you.
But yeah. So that was a collection of songs written between 2016 and 2022, I guess. And it was it's a little like you remember that scene in The Wedding Singer when Adam Sandler's showing, I think it was Drew Barrymore, this song that he wrote during a breakup.
Oh, I love that.
Me too. And he's all sweet and quiet at the beginning, and then
I was listening to a lot of The Cure. I was listening to a lot of The Cure when I wrote this.
Exactly. That's what that album is for me, because I got a divorce in the middle of that. So the first handful of songs I wrote are kind of like, just sort of awkwardly optimistic and like a little less than self-aware, but and then the bottom fell out of my marriage, kind of went through some hard shit, and then it was kind of my catharsis, like I was really exercised the demons on a couple of those songs.
I can tell now that you've said that. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know. Yeah. I literally, lyrically and everything, I could see where you're coming from. Totally.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, like it was what it needed to be for me at that time. I needed to get these kind of sentiments out of my head and onto
absolutely
the paper. But I do look back at some of the angstier lyrics and with a little bit of cringe, like I could have been a little bit more nuanced about like my frustration, I guess, with like where my personal life was going. But it's honest, it was from a place with conviction, and like I was feeling those things, and I at the very least it was at least a snapshot of true emotion,
Absolutely.
So I stand by that, and I do feel like production wise,
I love it.
It's my favorite.
I really think it sounds fantastic.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it feels like kind of the best presentation of Surrogate that I've been able to muster so far. But there's some little jagged bits of my soul in those songs, man.
I bet there are. Bet there are. But hey, you know what? You got to get those feelings and those words and those thoughts out in some way, shape, or form.
Totally. And everyone understands heartbeat. Like I don't think lyrically it's for everybody, but I know that at least some people are going to relate to being in that spot. So, commiseration, right? We're just looking for a miserable company.
So tell me, of all the songs and the records that you've done, I want to know what some of your favorites or the ones that you are most proud of, I guess.
Oh man, that's a great question. So there's a song on Popular Mechanics, the second Surrogate record, called Water Tower, and it's this silly kind of Baroque acoustic waltz that I wrote on that Emery tour. Actually, I was driving to Little Rock, Arkansas, and saw a bunch of water towers with the names of cities, and it just struck me as this kind of interesting representation of your town, as this like big eyesore, lifted up above the highway. So I totally anthropomorphized them and made it a little bit of a narrative about like what it must be like for this giant who represents this town. And it's not musically, it's not anything really that special, but it's some of my favorite lyrics I've ever written, because it's just weird, and like I like the narrative that it talks about, and it's kind of cheeky. And then there's a song that I wrote on Diamonds and Pearls called Can't Go Home, about this my paternal grandfather was kind of a jerk and had a drinking problem and beat up on my dad and my grandma and stuff. And finally they just like kicked him out and he never went back. And so that was probably the most meaningful song.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, about my family.
Wow.
About just sort of being such a bastard that you lose it, you know, lose access to the people that are the most important people to you. You know, a little bit of like a cautionary tale that, like, you know, there, but by the grace of God, go I, you know, just like, keep things in check, man. You gotta, it's a pretty slippery slope. Yeah. Some of these bad habits. So
no, that makes sense.
I think those two lyrically anyways are my, a couple of my favorites. And then, I'm really pleased with how this song called "Tequila on the Tennis Court."
Oh yeah, that
turned
sounds
out
great. Yeah,
yeah. I'm such a Strokes fan, so like getting to channel some of that kind of like early 2000s garage rock vibe was such a pleasure, and like I loved doing that with those guys too. So yeah, between those three, those are probably my top contenders.
And what's your favorite record that you've read?
Oh, Space Mountain, of course.
Of course. You're on the publicity tour.
Yeah. No, they're all my children. I love them. I think Popular Mechanics actually is probably my favorite. It's just just the right things at the right time on that record, I think.
Yeah. So what's the future for you and Surrogate? I know obviously you're in Emery as well, and you guys are doing a new record, but what are you planning to do with Surrogate? I know you said you guys are writing a new Emery record. What's going on in the future?
Yeah. So Space Mountain is going to be the last Surrogate record. We might do a couple singles here and there in the future, but I'm not planning on recording a new album with Surrogate. We're probably not going to tour. We've kind of become, you know, as close to a studio band at this point as and anything else. So, and I'm, you know, we've been a band since, 2006. So
crazy.
We're coming up on 17 years as a band, and I think it's just time for a change. I've got some other projects that I'm working on that I'm excited to write for, and not having that pull of like, oh, I need to write the next Surrogate record has really kind of freed me up and taken some pressure and anxiety off my plate. So I think, it's what you see is what you get with Surrogate at this point.
Are those projects something you can share, or is it something?
So one is that band I was talking about at the top, Bocce. It's me and this couple, David, who played guitar in Sherwood. David.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then his wife Sarah sings, and he works in a sync house at a sync house, which is a company that basically provides music for film and television.
Yes, that's right, you said.
And so we've got a licensing deal with his company. So we've already got a couple placements with that band. And it's not necessarily, I mean, I'm super proud of all those songs and the project itself. It's a little poppier than I tend to write. But intentionally, you know, we're trying to fit a mood there's that as an outlet. And then Dave Powell, the drummer in Emery, and I are working on a punk rock record, or it's going to be somewhere between punk rock and hardcore and post rock. So I'm writing for that. We don't have a name, we don't have a release date or anything. It's very infantile stages, but that's coming along. So my two outlets right now, and then also I'm contributing a lot with the new Emery stuff. So
when's that? Didn't they just put a record out? I felt like last year.
Yeah, we did Rub Some Dirt on it last summer.
Did you play on that one quite a bit?
I did, yeah. I did. I co-produced it with Matt and did a lot of the arrangements, and then a lot of the post-production too. I was heavily involved with that one.
That's awesome, man. That's great. I feel like there's been a good vibe about that one. I've seen a lot of stuff online about it. I heard one or two songs. I feel bad I haven't heard the whole record, but it's...
Oh. Dude, I mean, it's their 9th album. They have a lot of songs. I don't blame you.
Good Lord.
But that one was fun. Actually, Matt had the idea early on that he didn't want to record it the way we had been for the previous couple albums. He wanted to record a live album, and then we actually made we documented it. So we recorded that album top to bottom in like 90 minutes.
Wow.
And had a film crew, and then put it together as like a YouTube special. And so those performances are what are on the final version. So it was and I've never recorded that way before. I've never recorded live with a band. It's always been kind of piecemeal or
sure.
In the studio.
Did you like it?
I loved it. I thought it was I had a blast.
Was it challenging?
Very challenging. Yeah, it was pretty grueling. I mean, we rehearsed the hell out of it, and but we all live on different corners of the United States, so it all had to it was a very intense like week before the before the record, but it has it turned out to be a really cool product, and the visuals are just this guy our buddy Life, shot it and and made it just gorgeous.
Is that online?
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out then. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's all on YouTube at this point.
Okay,
the paywalls are down, so
very cool.
Yeah, check it out.
So when so since you just put that record out, when's the next one expected? Like what or how far along is that?
The next one right now we don't even have a release date in mind. We're just doing demos. I'm actually heading up to Seattle next month to hang out with Dave and Matt and
cool.
Flesh some songs out. So I would assume towards the end of the year is when we'll probably put it out. But it's very early stages, so I can't really
I get you.
Yeah.
Touring wise though, you guys are doing that Hawaii deal, and then any US tours after that? Tell me about the Hawaii tour.
So it's just a festival. It's just a one-day thing, but it's a continuation of this series of festivals that we did last year called the Is for Lovers festivals.
Oh yeah.
Which is it's owned by the Hawthorne Heights guys.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're trying to do. I think their goal is to do almost every state at some point. Wow. So yeah, we did like Ohio and Colorado. In Oklahoma last year, and then I think they're doing something like 10 states this year, and Hawaii is the first one, and I think we'll be on most of those. So what we're probably going to end up doing is do like a lot of those will be back-to-back weeks. So we'll fly out, play a festival, tour to the next one, play the fest, then come home. So it'll be a lot of like 5-day short runs. Yeah. And I know Devin and our booking agent are kind of working on that right now. So. We should be hitting most major markets at some point this year.
That's awesome. Are you coming to Florida?
I'm positive at some point.
Well, you gotta let me know because I would love to come hang out.
Of course, yeah. You'll be the first to let know.
Dude, that sounds so cool, man. What a cool. I don't know. I think it's cool that you're in a position, like I said, that you are getting to be creative and do your own thing, but you're being a part of something, and it's something that I feel like you're made for. It's not lost on me that I am beyond lucky to be able to pay my rent doing this bullshit, man. Never thought when I was, buying my first bass guitar at 13 that this would be sort of the trajectory of my life. But man, I'm grateful. And it's been like I said, as much catharsis as I got out of, music during my divorce, it's continued with all these other projects, and man, it is so healthy for me to be in a creative. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. I am beyond blessed, man.
Man, I love hearing that. That's really cool because it's just, as a fan and someone who listens, I know what I get from music. So it's cool to hear your perspective and how it is cathartic and how it is something that you need in your life, Oh my gosh. Yeah. I lost my faith a few years back. I'm not a religious person at all, but the closest thing that I experienced to any sort of like supernatural or magical experience is that the music and art that I get to be part of the creation of really seems to be more greater than the sum of its parts, in terms of like what it gives to me and what it gives to the listeners and people that come to shows. It's like it's the gift that just keeps on giving. And
man, it is. If I ever take that for granted, you have my permission to just slap me across the face.
That's sick. So we'll start to wind down here. And I'm sure everyone knows, but like, where can they find the newest Space Mountain record? It's obviously on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. Like, you got a website that people can go to and support you in that way?
We have I think we have surrogatemusic.com, but we're such slackers, man. Like, if we're on all the social medias, we interact with people, of course. If anybody wants to reach out, have any questions or comments or anything, we will absolutely read all of them and get back to you. But man, we're so bad at self-promotion, dude.
Dude, I get it.
We're on all the streaming platforms.
I think people need to hear this record. That's kind of what I'm aiming at. I think it's a fantastic record.
That means the world to me, Jeremy. Seriously, I would love for more people to get their ears on this thing. I'm really proud of it, but it is what it is. It's my own little cathartic journal entry. So come on a journey with me.
Dear diary.
Yeah, dear diary. Life is shitty sometimes.
Awesome, dude. Well, man, it was so good to talk to you and catch up. It's been quite a while. It's probably been 5-6 years at least. So
yeah, pre-pandemic for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. So please keep me in touch and let me know when you're coming my way and let's 100%. Hang out. I would love to get some beers or whatever. So.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'd love
Chris,
to come back.
You're awesome. Keep at it. Love hearing these stories.
Thank you, Jeremy.
All right, man. Pleasure. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Bye. Thank you again for tuning into this latest episode. I really appreciate all the listeners. Thanks so much for tuning in. And also, I'd like to thank Chris Keene for his time. He's an incredible artist, and I really enjoyed this conversation. It's just cool to hear his perspective and his thoughts on music in general. So, again, thank you, Chris. Check out the new records from Surrogate, Space Mountain. It's incredible. You will love it. As well as the newest Emery record, Rub Some Dirt on It. I finally listened to it after I talked to him, so it was really cool to realize, how much input he had on that record as well. So thank you again, the listener, and thank you for the opportunity. So thanks, guys, and we've got some amazing artists coming up, so here we go.